Hey, I'm Pavitra,
I am Paul.
and together we're going to tell you about some of our favorites from the Samaya archive. Um, these are 19th century black and white photographs of Nautch girls.
Yeah.
So I have so many problems with the word, but Paul, I'll let you explain what it is.
Well, Nautch is anglicized for Nautch, and Nautch was part of the lexicon both in Devanagari and Urdu. Historically, of course, Nautch comes from the Prakrit Nacha, and uh, Nautch was very much part of 19th century India across the divide, in public gatherings, in private gatherings, at festivals, in temples and homes, everywhere. And it was one of those pastimes that everybody indulged in.
I think, there's so many things that we can talk about this, but let's start with this idea of the Nautch girls as being sort of entertainment. I think in a culture like ours, which is oral, the stories that we hear or the ways in which we learn about our culture comes from music and dance. So music and dance is central to our understanding and our learning of ourselves and our own cultures. And for calling these beautiful women Nautch girls is, it to me in some way kind of dumbs down what they actually did or how talented they actually were. I mean, this photograph that we're looking at is of a beautiful Kathak dancer. You can tell from the mudra that her hands are in that she's a Kathak dancer. And she's also dressed in the height of the fashion of the age, right? She's wearing a beautiful ghagra with the finest gota patti work, gota kam, which was essentially gold or silver metal thread that was beaten into strips of almost like a ribbon and attached to clothes and then worn. And the blouse is also very interesting because I feel it's like a hybrid style. It's sort of the colonial influence on Indian clothing, because if you'll see that the blouse is high neck, it's long, it kind of covers her upper torso. So I would say that this is probably to the later part of the 19th century. And just look at her; she looks so stunning and so regal. She's got the Surya and the Chandra in her hair, the jewelry that she's wearing. In Tamil dancers, we call it the Rakodi. I don't know in the Kathak sort of lexicon what it's called. But obviously, she's highly trained. She looks like a highly skilled, highly trained artist. And her music and the music instruments. Paul, what is that? Is that like a sarangi? That is a sarangi.
Yes.
That is a sarangi. And I think from there, from what they're wearing, they look to be musicians from Muslim tradition with their hats and with their caps and the long sherwani style clothing.
You see, the thing with the word Nautch in modern day context is often associated in a very derogatory sense.
Right.
But in the culture of that time, these women were actually some of the most classy, refined, accomplished women of such great stature that they had the authority to choose even amongst nobility and ruling classes. They were often excellent poets, great dancers, musicians, writers, and of course, very accomplished, often in the culinary arts and things like that. And I think, to be a famous, Nautch girl, quote unquote, you had years of practice, training, understudying with various poets, musicians, etc. I mean, a little bit of that if you've seen Umrao Jan, you see her write poetry, go to an ustad, actually have it vetted, practice writing poetry, and turned out to be a poet in her own right. So these are all women I would, say were seniors in the social hierarchy, and of course sought after. These particular photographs are from the Jaisalmer court and taken by a Jaipur-based studio called Govindra Muderam, and they were there for about 100 years into the 70s when the studio kind of broke up because of some internal rivalry between family. But these are photographs which I would treasure, not just for what they seem to show, but they are photographs of people who deserve to be captured for history.
And yeah, I think two other things that are striking to me. One is obviously that in the Jaisalmer court, that implies the role of patronage, and the thing is that many of these performers were actually paid regular salaries by royals or by wealthy noblemen, who not paid in the sense that they were encouraged to practice their art, their craft, to develop it, to teach other people. So, I mean, they weren't hired for a single performance and then they disappeared into nothing. There was the role of patronage in the development of music and arts. And I love also that at a time when women were still in parda, and you weren't really seeing images of women. So you start to see images of women, number one. But the second most amazing thing is the balance of power to me in these photographs, because the woman is at the heart. She is the heart of the photograph.
Yes.
And I think so many of the 19th century photographs that we've looked at, where women are posed, we've got photographs in the Sarmaya collection of tribal women, where the manner in which they've been made to sit, or the manner in which their clothes have been exposed, if you will, they come from a very judgmental and objectifying male eye. What I love about these photos is how these women just command the frame. I mean, it's very clear to me in this photograph, for example, that the lady who's singing is the Shubha Mudgal of that time. She's got that same sense of authority and power and command. And of course, her clothes are stunning. She's wearing an Asharfi booty Banarsi blouse with what looks to me like a gadwal, a cotton with a silk woven border, a fabulous nath, probably with Basra pearls, and her ghungroos, which in those days they made their own ghungroos. So they actually stitched into it the number of bells they wanted for the exact tone of the step. So if there was a troupe of dancers, the senior most dancer would have more ghungroos. So you heard her foot in a more definitive way. How beautiful. I love the thought of that. But I love these photos exactly for what they say.
Yeah, certainly these two photos, I would say both of them are seniors of some serious standing.
And you can contrast it with the women here, right? Yeah. You can see how obviously they're posed.
Yeah.
And you see how sort of stiff and uncomfortable they are in their pose, versus that beautiful with the Kathak with her hands in that mudra. I mean, this seems to me like a staged, posed picture. But what I found very interesting in this picture is that the tabla player has a kind of like a kangaroo's pouch into which he sticks his tabla. So obviously these were wandering troops. They walked from one place to another and performed. So I don't think they were ever seated in one place.
Yeah, and these are all album and print. So again, photographing them, preserving, managing, all of that in itself is a, wonderful challenge. We are, actually surprised that we have this quality of image, almost 120 years old, as of now. So amazing.
And I love portraits. I love seeing the faces of these people and imagining what life must have been for them at the time. And a photograph gives you that sense of reality, being up front with their reality. Super cool.